Welcome to today's edition of the Rush 24/7 podcast.
Well, here we are, right back at it, folks. Rush Limbaugh and the Excellence in Broadcasting Network. It is great to be with you. It is just a thrill and a delight to have these 3 hours with you each and every day. Enjoy talking to you most of the time. Telephone number is 800-2... all the time. 800-282-2882. The email address, lrushbo@eibnet.com. I'm sorry, eibnet.us. I'm sorry, we got a new email address. It's probably 6 months old now, and I just got syllabic habit that I have to break. It's lrushbo@eibnet.us. Okay, Elizabeth Warren blew up on the floor of the Senate last night, and Mitch slapped her with Rule 19, Senate Rule number 19, and everybody is saying that Mitch blew it, that by invoking Rule 19 and shutting her down because she was personally insulting Jeff Sessions about things they had already vetted and discussed in a committee hearing on Sessions, shut her down, and that's turned her into a 24-hour news story and news focus. But I don't think that's why. I don't think they invoked Rule 19 to shut her down here. It's the effect of it, but I think it's got ramifications down the road on confirmation for Gorsuch and other, all of which I'm going to explain as the program unfolds. But, folks, while this is going on, and Pocahontas Warren is all over leftist media. She's receiving accolades and cheers and attaboys and attagirls, and you keep it up, Liz. You keep it up, and she's livid and she's fit to be tied. And in the midst of all this, she thought it necessary to send me a message. In the midst of all this anger, who is on her mind? None other than your beloved host, the all-knowing, all-caring, all-sensing Maharishi. It happened this morning on The View. And this is just one of the many stops that Pocahontas has made since having been made famous as a screeching ranter last night on the floor of the Senate. Here is what happened.
Rush Limbaugh has famously said, all this marching and protesting, they're all going to get tired of it. Do you think we're going to get tired?
No, Rush, we are not going to get tired. We are here to stay.
I know you'll never get tired.
Not only are you going to get tired of it, it's going to rebound negatively on all of you. You people are digging your grave even deeper with all of this. You just don't know it. They really don't. This stuff is not going to stop Trump. It is not going to stop the Republicans. It's not going to reverse the outcome of the election. And it's not going to set them up for better improvements in 2018 or 2020. Because they still have no message behind all this other than they're a bunch of spoiled brats who simply are a bunch of authoritarians who can't handle losing. There's a great story in the Washington Post, it's actually a column in the Washington Post today by Julian Zelzer, Zellzer. He's a political historian at Princeton. He's a fellow at the New America Foundation. And he is the author of The Fierce Urgency of Now, Lyndon Johnson, Congress, and the Battle for the Great Society. But he's a fellow somewhere. You know, when you're a fellow somewhere, that's big. When you're a fellow, it means, well, it is reputedly smart. It means you have a chair at a think tank. So you sit there and you think. And then occasionally you write what you think, and then the think tank publishes it. Nobody buys it, nobody reads it. But you are heralded as a great thinker. But anyway, this guy's right. He said protests didn't hurt Reagan, and they're not going to stop Trump. And he takes us back. This kind of thing happened during Reagan's first term. Reagan was despised as much as Bush was, and is despised as much as Trump. In fact, some of the comparisons to Trump are identical to those made about Reagan. In fact, he's disengaged, he's stupid, he doesn't know politics, he doesn't know the Constitution, he's an idiot, he's lazy, and all these things. And the guy documents how all of this didn't matter a whit. It didn't affect anything. Reagan got his agenda. And I think where we are with all of this, like Scott Pelley opened the CBS Evening News list, and what did he actually say when he opened the news? He opened by calling Trump divorced from reality. He said, It's been a busy day for presidential statements divorced from reality. So the media is caught up on trying to prove every Trump lie. The one thing they got all hot and bothered about yesterday when Trump said the murder rate was at an all-time high, or 47-year high, and the media went into gear and they fact-checked it. Trump's lying. Trump's wrong. The murder rate's actually been coming down. Trump doesn't know what he's talking about. And then Trump attacks the media, and so the media decides to defend itself. And I think what I've said about this campaign and what this presidency, going back to the first days of the campaign, and that is they still do not know what they're dealing with here in Trump. But the most important thing that the media does not know, they do not know, even today, who elected Donald Trump. They haven't the foggiest idea. They haven't gone out and talked to them. They have a caricatured image of the Trump voter. And let me describe the media and the Democrats who they think Trump voters are. They're missing one or both front teeth. They chew tobacco or smoke cigarettes, and they spit constantly while sitting on the front porch, reading the latest from the National Rifle Association. They have pickup trucks, and they go to church. They didn't get much beyond high school, if even that. They are poor. They are middle to lower middle class. They are 100% white. They are 80% male, 20% female. There are no gays and lesbians or transgenders or cisgenders or oddball genders or any other genders that voted for Trump. This is that's what they think of the Trump voter. They also do not know that the average Trump voters tune them out. They don't know that the average Trump voter is not paying him any attention. They're going about trying to destroy Trump in the tried and tested ways that they've been able to destroy any Republican they've wanted to in the past. And they're missing the mark. And they're missing the mark because they still don't know who elected Trump. They have this negative caricature of people who are idiots, uninformed, ignoramus, racists, and bigots. And that's who they think that they can take Trump out by talking about how Trump lied about the murder rate. And Trump doesn't know what he's talking about. He wants a religious ban on people. They think he can lie about what Trump's doing or even report the truth about what Trump's doing in a sneering way and think they can do damage to Trump. And by do damage, I mean destroy his presidency. And it isn't going to work. I think the media is effectively right now in a circular firing squad and doesn't know it. I think the Democrat Party's in the middle of that circular firing squad. Can I give you an example? We'll get to the Pocahontas details here in just a second. We'll get to the oral arguments before the Ninth Circus yesterday. Because, folks, I have to tell you, two of those, there were three judges in the Ninth Circus. It's a three-judge panel, and two of those judges didn't even ask about the law. They asked about Trump's opinions. They asked about Trump's attitudes. They asked about Trump's psychology. They asked about, and even the lawyer representing the opposition to Trump told the judges that they should take into account what Trump had said on the campaign trail in determining whether or not his executive order is constitutional. That has nothing to do with it. There is a statute. There is a law that applies here, and it's cut and dried. And it clearly gives the president total control over who gets into the country after he declares certain danger zones, certain problems that exist. It clearly states the president is in total control. Where this case hinges legally is on the constitutional rights of some who are not citizens. Because even though as a non-citizen you don't have constitutional rights, if you're an illegal alien does not have constitutional rights. So whether the president's constitutional or unconstitutional shouldn't and does not apply. However, there are some individuals who are not citizens who, by virtue of other aspects of the law, are treated as citizens. And that's where there is some gray area in this statute, but that wasn't even explored. And I have to tell you, the Trump DOJ lawyer was horrible. Did you listen to any of this, Mr.? It was, folks, it was this guy. I mean, he even said to the judges, you know, I get the feeling I'm not persuading you. And he said, well, please, if we lose here, don't make it too bad on this. I'm not listening to this, and I'm saying, is this the best that they've got over there to send out to the Ninth Circus? Or maybe they just figure they're going to lose there anyway. There are two things. Trump has tweeted, and he made a speech to the sheriffs today, the National Association of Sheriffs in Washington, and he criticized these judges. And he said, I'm not saying they're biased, I'm saying it's political. I said, I can't believe how political this was. I listened to it. I can't believe how political it is. People saying, don't start attacking the judges before they rule. There's no way they can rule for you now, because now it would look like you successfully intimidated them. And these people are in the judiciary, and they've got lifetime appointments. They're going to stay there long after Trump's gone. They're not going to be intimidated by you, and they're not going to act like. So they think, a lot of people think Trump buried his own case here by going out there and ripping them. But his supporters love it. That's the difference. That's the difference. The Trump voters like it. The Trump voters like Trump telling these corrupt and politicized judicial people the truth. He likes telling them off. They like him telling them off. Because everybody knows our judiciary has been corrupt by politics. Everybody knows that the left has populated the judiciary not with judges, but with liberal activists and hacks. And there were two of them on that 3-judge panel yesterday. Now, here's the second thing, and this is an even better example. Are you aware that the famous upper-tier and high-class department store chain Nordstrom decided to get rid of all Ivanka Trump products? Purses, lipstick, whatever Ivanka makes, fashion-related, whatever it is, they publicly announced that they're getting rid of Ivanka stuff. And that was last week. Well, Trump today tweeted how bad he thinks that is. He tweeted, and he slammed Nordstrom for getting rid of his daughter's fashion line. Said her fashions are great, her products are great, and Nordstrom is also being political and making a dumb, stupid move here. Well, I watched this on CNN, and they had a panel assembled to discuss this. And the consensus on the panel was, you don't do this. Presidents don't do this. This is something a father would do. A father would defend his daughter. But you don't go out there and pick winners and losers. The president, with his microphone and with his bully pulpit, the president shouldn't be going out there and criticizing individual businesses that are making business decisions. And that's not what's going. Nordstrom didn't make a business decision. They made a political decision, I think. I have some experience with this kind of rot, and I think this is pure political decision that Nordstrom made. This is not business. They'll hide under the umbrella that it's business. And to a certain extent it is, but I mean, it's politics driving it. And that's what Trump was talking about in his review of the oral arguments of the Ninth Circus. He was simply saying, you can't believe how political this is. This is the law. We're talking about the law here. What has politics got to do with it? So he goes out, he defends his daughter. And I'm going to tell you again, Trump supporters who hear about this, the people that voted for Trump, stand up and cheer when he does this. The fact that it's not something presidents do doesn't matter to them. Because these people have seen people on their side be savagely, personally assaulted and attacked with lies and distortions, and they're fed up with nobody pushing back against it. People that vote for Donald Trump, I don't know whether they buy Ivanka Trump stuff or not. That's not the point. Ivanka Trump may as well be Donald Trump in this instance. So Nordstrom, effectively, as far as Trump supporters are concerned, told Donald Trump to take a hike. by telling his daughter to take a hike. And Trump supporters are also saying, why punish the daughter because you don't like the man, the president? It's not fair. It's not right. This is the kind of thing the left has gotten away with for years. Being able to, the left, it's okay for them to boycott. It's okay for them to politicize business. It's okay for them to threaten and bully businesses into banning or not selling certain products or advertising certain. Oh, that's perfectly fine for the left to do that. Nobody says anything. That's perfectly fine. That's capitalism at work, supposedly. But when a president's daughter is affected and he sends out a tweet ripping Nordstrom for doing this, why, no, we're not supposed to do that. That's not presidential. That's something a father would do, but this is very, very bad. Now, I will concede that the vast majority of political establishment types will agree in unison that Trump's tweet slamming Nordstrom, bad move, wrong move, not presidential. But Trump's voters, right on. Whether they buy Ivanka stuff or not, because Trump voters are sick and tired, fed up with the one-sided rules that exist in the American political playing field today, where Republicans and conservatives can be banned, can be fired, can be dismissed with no pushback whatsoever. Whatever the left wants. If a pizza shop won't sell to gay people, then the pizza shop should be put out of business. If the photography studio or if the bakery won't cater a gay wedding, put them out of business. Nobody pushes back against it. Nobody says this is wrong. Nobody attempts to reverse it. Nobody comes to the defense of the businesses under attack. Well, Donald Trump has come to the defense of his daughter, a business under attack, and I'm here to tell you that the people that supported Trump and voted for Trump have not one problem with that. In fact, they're probably cheering it. Back in just a second. On the cutting edge of societal evolution, Rush Limbaugh and Hump Day, Wednesday, middle of the week. Get this day behind you when you were over the hump. Okay, so we got lots coming up on the program today. We've got the full explaining and detailed analysis of Pocahontas Warren erupting on the floor of the Senate last night and being shut down. Mitch slapped, as it were, by the invocation of Rule 19. We also have the analysis of the oral arguments before the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals involving the Trump executive order. And these people could rule at any time, so I want to get to that probably first out of the break. To my not really shock and surprise, I awoke today to an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal, it actually was published late yesterday, by James Baker and George Shultz, advocating on behalf of the Republican establishment for a, are you ready for it, carbon tax. I said, wait a minute, did I read this right? Carbon tax. Bill Clinton wanted a carbon tax. Barack Hussein Obama wanted a carbon tax. What the hell do we want a carbon tax for? And I read further, because we need to take action on climate change. I said, no. And then, in exchange for a 20% carbon tax, we will get rid of cumbersome environmental regulations. And then I read that there are certain oil companies in favor of this and certain oil companies opposed to this. But here you go. Here's your Republican establishment. The senior members from years ago, been in it for decades, advocating a carbon tax. I'm going to detail that for you as the show unfolds. There is a story that also in the stack today that I need to spend a little bit of time on. It is a story from the, Yeah, damn it, it didn't print the... Republicans fear for their safety as Obamacare protests grow. Let me find the link of this because my print technique doesn't print everything, and it's Politico. I knew it. I knew it was going to be Politico. So we have that. Republicans fear for their safety as Obamacare protests grow. So we've got that. I want to get to the Ninth Circuit business here, the oral arguments yesterday, because the judge panel could rule at any moment, even though it's like 9:34 out there now. Everybody expects them to move quickly here. Trump today went and spoke to law enforcement officers and sheriffs. And he was standing there. I watched it. And he read aloud Title 8, Chapter 12 of the U.S. Code, which is the law involved here, which is the statute that permits his executive order. And this is it. Whenever the president finds that the entry of any aliens or of any class of aliens into the United States would be detrimental to the interests of the United States, he may, by proclamation, and for such period as he shall deem necessary, suspend the entry of all aliens or any class of aliens as immigrants or non-immigrants, or impose on entry of aliens any restrictions that may deem to be appropriate. And Trump said, it's not just me, it's for Obama, it's for Ronaldus Magnus. It was done for the security of our nation, the security of our citizens. It had nothing to do with religion. It's a helpful reminder that Obama initiated a 6-month ban on anybody from Iraq coming into this country. And nobody had a problem with it. So then Trump said that he listened to oral arguments about the legal challenges to his executive order because the Ninth Circus made them available for audio streaming. And he said when you read something so perfectly written, so clear to anybody, courts seem to be so political. It would be so great for our court system just read a statement and do what's right. And let me just tell you about this. In a sterile world, he's exactly right. Let me read this to you again. There's nothing ambivalent here. There's nothing that is in any way confusing or that would provide any out for legal opposition. Whenever the president, by the way, this is a law passed and debated in Congress. It was legislation signed into law by the president at the time. Whenever the president finds that the entry of any aliens or of any class of aliens into the U.S. would be detrimental to the interests of the U.S., he may, by proclamation, and for such period as he shall deem necessary, suspend the entry of all aliens or any class of aliens as immigrants or non-immigrants, or impose on the entry of aliens any restrictions he may deem to be inappropriate. There's no wiggle room there. There's no alternate interpretation. There's no reading between the lines to find out what they really meant here. It is as crystal clear as can be. This is why Judge Robart in the state of Washington did not use the law in issuing a temporary stay of the executive order. He couldn't. He had to go off on tangents and use other things, such as it's a religious ban, or it's unfair, or it's bigoted. And remember, Judge Robart is not a Republican. He's a Republican-appointed judge, but he is a left-wing judicial activist actually chosen by Patty Murray, the senator. Now, here's the legal theory on which opponents to Trump are trying to have this thing thrown out. The theory is that this statute cannot override constitutional rights, that no president is able to issue an executive order that overrides any person's constitutional rights. Now, common sense says that should have nothing to do with this, because we're talking about aliens. We're talking about people outside the country who want to come in. They are not citizens. Therefore, citizenship is not being denied. Citizenship is not being trampled. Because we are talking about aliens and immigrants and refugees and all that outside the United States who have no constitutional rights. However, there is a little gray here because some of the aliens affected by the Trump executive order have been in the United States before. They left, and they were prevented from getting back in by the issuance of the executive order. But they had been here before. And some of them had some degree of legal status here. But it isn't citizenship that they have, the people we're talking about and the people that Trump wanted to restrict from coming in. Now, the left is arguing that this little bit of gray area gives them a measure of constitutional rights, gives these aliens who have been in the country before, but who then left and wanted to come back and now can't get in because of the order. Well, the left says, well, they had quasi-constitutional rights. They had measure because they'd been here. And as an example of this, the police cannot enter the home of an alien criminal suspect without a warrant, even though the alien is not a citizen. There are still constitutional rights that do descend to a criminal alien suspect. The Fourth Amendment applies to them just as it does to citizens. This has been so ruled by the courts. Now, whatever the merit of this argument, the fact remains that the rights of aliens who have some legal status in our country cannot outweigh the security of American citizens from foreign threats. In other words, this should not matter. The leftist argument is, wait a minute, you are denying somebody's constitutional rights because they have been here before. Some of these aliens that wanted to come in and were prevented had been here before. They had lived here. They may not have had citizenship, but they had been effectively quasi-citizens by virtue of the way they lived and the way they were treated. And the answer to that is, doesn't matter. A, they're not citizens, but B, we cannot allow that small subset group of people to supersede national security. The left says, damn, yes, we can. Screw you. We're going to do anything we can to stop this president. We're going to do anything we can to stop Trump, and we'll go any legal avenue open to us. But again, their argument, I think, is specious and Swiss cheese, because the rights of the aliens we're talking about do not have citizenship. They've got some legal status, but they don't have citizenship. You can't allow deference to them to outweigh the security of American citizens from foreign threats. And this is a matter the Constitution delegates to the political branches, not the judicial. The Constitution doesn't give the judiciary a role here in national security, and they cannot assume it. So the president, whoever it is, in this case Trump, has a very high degree of constitutional authority to repel foreign threats. And Congress, which has the authority to determine the qualifications an alien must meet to enter our country, has delegated sweeping authority to the president in the statute that I just quoted. He has total say-so by proclamation. He can suspend entry into this country by aliens, illegal immigrants, anybody, at a time he thinks we are under threat. And he can determine how long that ban is. Congress has given the president that sweeping authority. I sent this to a legal friend of mine to make sure that my interpretation was correct, and I highlighted the word he. He shall deem necessary. He may deem appropriate. That's in reference to the president. And the fact that the word he and singular and the reference to the president is in a statute that was passed by the Congress indicates Congress wanted the security decision made by the president alone. That's why I said there's no ambiguity here and there's no ambivalence. The power vested in the president here is total and complete by Congress. They wanted the security decisions made by the president alone, not the president under the supervision of the federal courts. At nowhere in this statute is there any reference to the judiciary at all. There's no reference to the judiciary having review, that the judiciary must sign off on whatever president does. That's why what Judge Robart did is totally wrong. As a matter of law, Judge Robart was way outside his legal purview in issuing the stay. And he did it because he's a leftist hack, doing the bidding of the side he agrees with. His ruling, if you go look at it, he didn't address the law at all because he can't. He cannot stay Trump's executive order on matters of the law. And that's why Trump is out tweeting how unfortunate all this is that politics, by the way, it's not politics, it's liberalism. It's liberalism. Now, Trump saying politics, I know why he's saying that. He's calling it the courts getting political is probably a little bit more effective in persuading people to your side than attacking liberals, because it just is. Because people instinctively know the courts shouldn't be politicized. You know, in the Civics 101, courts should not be politicized. And people think that they aren't and shouldn't be. So I understand Trump using the word politics instead of liberal. But they're a bunch of left-wing hacks. And two more of them on the Ninth Circuit 3-judge panel. Now, see, this doesn't end here because the problem, Andy McCarthy wrote about this. Let's assume here that the Ninth Circuit upholds Judge Robart, Trump loses, and so one of two things can happen there. The government can ask for the entire Ninth Circuit to hear it. That's called en banc. This is a 3-judge panel that can ask for all, I think it's actually 19. There are many more judges at the Ninth Circuit, but some of them are long gone, and they're just there in name only. A lawyer being of counsel to affirm, names on the door, but doesn't do any work. I think it's actually 19 judges or thereabouts, and hardly ever is that granted. Appellate courts generally side with what their 3-judge panels do. So if they request en banc and it's denied, it's hello, Supreme Court, where the assumption is that it'll go 4-4 because there are 8 justices, and that would send the case back to the Ninth Circuit, which ruled that Trump lost, and that would be the end of it. McCarthy writes, wait a minute, it's a mistake to assume this is going to go 4-4 because Anthony Kennedy, we can't count on him on this, because Anthony Kennedy in a couple of other cases has made it very clear he doesn't like the judiciary being subordinated in these kinds of cases. He doesn't like the fact that judiciary could just be swept aside. He doesn't like the fact judiciary is told to stay out of matters like this. Point is, it's not a slam dunk that the Supreme Court would go 4-4. And it could go 5-4 either way. You just don't know. If there ought not be any debate. This is what's wrong with the judicial system. This is where we are because of liberal hacks who are judges. Because the law on this is just crystal clear. There is no alternative view of this. And now the left is saying to the judges during oral arguments, yeah, did you hear what the president said during his campaign? He said he wanted to ban all Muslims all the time. This is not relevant. Objection! Relevance! Throw it out. You can't start talking about it. I mean, a responsible judge would shut down any lawyer who made that argument before he finished the sentence. We're talking about the law. These left-wing liberal judge hacks are now telling us what they think was in the president's mind and whether it's moral or not, according to their political agreements, their beliefs. It's just bad. All right, now, let me make another point here, folks, and I want you to buckle in for this. You think Donald Trump is president? He is. You think he won the election? He did. Ever since Judge Robart stayed the executive order that Trump issued, putting a temporary ban on all entry to the U.S. from people from those 7 states in Syria. Get this, the Washington Examiner. Since President Trump's immigration restrictions on 7 nations were sidelined by a federal judge last weekend, the State Department, which effectively Trump runs now, the State Department has rushed in 100 Syrians. According to a report, the State Department of Donald Trump, clearly with a lot of Clinton and Obama holdovers in there, 100 Syria was a nation mentioned in this list, and their ban was ongoing. It was not to be lifted in 90 days. It was permanent for however long. And the State Department has just looked at Trump and basically gone, you because in just 2 days, the State Department has rushed in 100 Syrians. From February 5th to February 7th, 15 Syrian refugees were sent to New York, 10 of them to Virginia, 9 to Texas, and the rest to 11 other states, according to State Department numbers posted by something called a Refugee Resettlement Watch. And here's the kicker. Those 100 Syrians in 2 days let into the United States were vetted by the United Nations, not us. All because a leftist hack judge stayed Trump's executive order. Does anybody have any doubt what the left is trying to do here? This is a willful, purposeful attempt to corrupt and undermine this 100 Syrian refugees. Now, some of them may be perfectly fine. That's not the point. The United Nations vetting them? That's supposed to make it okay? This is the Trump State Department. Daily Caller. New poll shows most Americans support Trump's immigration ban. It's an Investor's Business Daily poll. The public that voted for him is still with him. That's that. You have to take another time out because of constraints of the programming format. Now, just a couple of more things to add to this, and that is the left's focus on the religious ban. They're trying to portray Trump's executive order as a religious ban, and that can be easily swiped away, which I will do when we return here and move on to Pocahontas. Shut up in the Senate. Have my brain tied behind my back just to make it fair. Rush Limbaugh talent on loan from God. Happy to have you here. 800-282-2882 is the number. We'll be getting to your phone calls in this hour. From thehill.com, looky here, folks. President Trump plans to have lunch tomorrow with a group of moderate Democrat senators who could help advance his agenda through Congress. Senators Heidi Heitkamp of North Dakota. She was considered for a position in Trump's cabinet. Joe Manchin of West Virginia, John Tester of Montana, and Joe Donnelly of Indiana are expected to attend Trump's luncheon at the White House tomorrow. It's according to USA Today, so it could be fake news. All four face re-election next year and represent states Trump won big in 2016. 4 Democrats, folks, incurring the wrath here of Pocahontas. 4 Democrats incurring the wrath of the Democrat base to cross over and reach across the aisle to work with the Trumpster. Accepting an invitation to have lunch with him at the White House. You know, I saw a poll. I don't remember if this Gallup or whatever. You ready for this? There are more Democrats. This is a poll of Democrats. There are more Democrats who know who Steve Bannon is than who know who Chuck Schumer is. Did you see that poll? You don't remember what poll it is? Well, it's funny, but stop and think for a second. How in the world Chuck Schumer has been a Democrat and a leader in the Senate for Democrats, and in the House, he's been there 30 years. 30 years, 3 decades. Steve Bannon has been known to people in the political world for just a little over 1 year. And there are already more Democrats who know who Bannon is than know who their spear carrier in the Senate is. That stuns me. Now, what explains that? Well, the answer to that's simple. I will let you dwell on it. I want to get back to wrap up here on the Ninth Circus oral arguments and the way the left is approaching securing a temporary stay on Donald Trump's executive order designed to protect the United States from bad actors getting into the country. They're harping, the lawyers, the judges, the 2 liberal hacks on the Ninth Circuit panel yesterday, harping on this fact that it's a religious ban. The president can't ban people's religion. There's no religious test. And here's where they're relying on for this. This this so-called no religious test clause in the Constitution, you talk about bastardization and distortion. Article 6, Section 3 of the Constitution says, quote, "But no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public trust under the United States." That's it. That simply and only means that religion cannot be considered for holding public office. Nobody is disqualified from running for office or winning and holding office because of their religion. It has nothing to do with immigration. I'm sorry if I sound a little exercised here today, folks, but this stuff, there are just some days it gets to me. I mean, it really infuriates me. And last night into today is one of those periods of time when I hear judges, appellate judges questioning about a religious ban. These people ought to be the people who are experts on the Constitution. And the problem is these are people who actively seek to undermine it because they don't think it applies any longer. It's an old, decrepit document. It has nothing to do with the current way of life in the world today, blah, 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 blah. But that's not the way to interpret it. It's the law. And we have religious tests applied to illegal immigrants and aliens and refugees every day. It is standard. It is part of the process that we involve ourselves in when determining who gets into this country. And here these judges trying to say that Article 6, Section 3 means there's no religious test for anybody doing anything in the United States of America. They want it to be able to be considered to decide anything else. Who can be admitted, who can't be. Now, the Trump executive order is not a religious ban. And I've had emails. How do you know it's not a religious ban? You keep there and you say it's not a religious ban, but look at the countries. Yeah. Well, let me tell you something. If it were a religious ban, then the ban would have been on people from every country where there are Muslims. The fact of the matter is 85% of the Muslim world was untouched by the Trump executive order. So you tell me, you arrogant cocksure liberals, how the hell is that a religious ban? If it were a religious ban, it would not have left out the 85% of the Muslim world. But there we had two judges on the Ninth Circuit panel persisting in pretending it's a religious ban, pretending that it would be illegal and unconstitutional because it's a religious ban, and it's not. Immigration and Nationality Act of 1952. Probably the first to cite that law, back when Trump was being attacked back in December 2015 for suggesting that the Syrian refugee program be suspended. So there is no religious test. And these judges trying to take Article 6, Section 3 and expand that, which is merely a statement that we cannot have a religious test for anybody holding office. And this is outrageous. This is who I'm telling you what, the Democrat Party is a shrinking and dwindling hate group. That's literally what they've become. And, you know, I remember the reason why I say that and why I think that this is an important point. Back early in my career, when I was still learning about all this, when I was wet behind the ears and naive, up until the time I started this radio show, nobody that knew me ever thought I was a hate monger or a racist or homophobic or sexist or bigoted or any of that. Nobody. Because I'm not. I wasn't. 6 months after being on the radio with this program, I'd become all of that. And I remember, don't want to mention names here because these people are still alive. I remember a prominent conservative media figure talking to him about prominent liberal media figures that he knew, that he liked. And I questioned him, how can you trust these people? I mean, no, they're good guys, they're good guys. In fact, one of them likes you, says you're not a hater. And I was supposed to be thrilled to hear this. I was supposed to be mollified. Some liberal media figure had just pronounced I was okay because after he had listened to me, he had determined I wasn't a hater. And I did not take that as a compliment, and I got kind of mad, just like I did when Al Gore, vice presidential debate in 1996, Bob Dole is the presidential candidate for the Republican side, and Gore and Jack Kemp, VP candidate, have a debate, and Gore tells Kemp, you're not like the rest of your party. You're not a racist, Jack. And Kemp said they thanked him. Yeah, well, the way we look at it, Limbaugh's not a hater. Of course, that's out the window now. They all think the opposite. They are the hate group. The Democrat Party, that's their fuel. That's what energizes them, is their hate. And for them to sit there and act like they're the most compassionate and tolerant and peaceful and understanding, it's just a bunch of hogwash. The American people that voted for Trump are hated. The Republican Party is hated. Alternative conservative media is hated. George W. Bush, Ronald Reagan, Donald Trump, take your pick. They are hated. They are not opposed. And I wish an even bigger percentage of the American people would figure this out. The American people running around thinking that all the hate and the racism and all these other isms are located on the Republican Party side. The Republican Party has been over backwards, not even criticizing Democrats in hopes that people wouldn't think they're what the Democrats say they are. While the Democrats go out and behave that way times 10 all the time, every day, and never get called on it. But they are the hate group. They are the hate party. They are the people that literally thrive and subsist on it. And you can see it. You can see it in these protests. You can see it in these so-called acts of dissent, which are nothing more than riots. Last night on CNN, there was a debate, Ted Cruz and Crazy Bernie, on Obamacare and getting rid of it. Crazy Bernie was great. We didn't even need Ted there. Ted was great. Don't misunderstand. But Crazy Bernie told them, why Obamacare was worthless and horrible and we should get rid of it better than any Republican ever could. Anyway, this is now moving into the Pocahontas, the Elizabeth Warren being silenced by virtue of the invocation. Senate Rule 19 last night, while there was another one of these Democrat all-nighter debates trying to destroy and prevent the confirmation of Jeff Sessions. So Bill Hemmer talked to Cruz on Fox this morning about Elizabeth Warren being silenced. I'm getting a little ahead of this only because there's something Cruz says in this bite that I want to amplify. Bill Hemmer said Elizabeth Warren was asked to conclude her remarks based on the maligning of another U.S. senator, that being Jeff Sessions. A few years ago, Senator Cruz, you were criticized by some Republicans for going after Senator McConnell on the floor of the Senate. Is this different or not, Senator?
The Democrats are angry and they're out of their minds. We're seeing in the Senate Democrats objecting to every single thing. They're boycotting committee meetings. They're refusing to show up. They're foaming at the mouth practically. And really, where their anger is directed, it's not at Republicans. Their anger is directed at the American people. They're angry with the voters. How dare you vote in a Republican president, a Republican Senate, a Republican House? What many of the Senate Democrats are taking the lesson of this election was that Hillary was too moderate, and they need to go more Elizabeth Warren, more Bernie Sanders, more extreme and on the fringes. I think that's really unfortunate. And I think last night you saw that with Elizabeth lashing out at Jeff Sessions and really lashing out at the American people.
And that is the point. All of this unrest and all the riots and all the protests, that really the anger is in all of you who voted for Trump and voted for Republicans. That's really the nub of it. They're angry at Trump, but Trump wouldn't be there if it weren't for you. They are angry. They feel rejected. The American people, and I've already told you how they think of Trump voters. Trump voters are uneducated deliverance types. You're fools, you're idiots, you're uneducated, you're unsophisticated. You're just an embarrassment. You're American embarrassment. You voted for Trump over Hillary, and they're outraged. And Cruz is exactly right at you. I want to take a brief time out here, and from there we will go into what happened with Elizabeth Warren on the floor of the Senate last night, because I think there's something bigger at play here with the invocation of Rule 19. It wasn't invoked just to shut her up last night. I think it was a test run and a trial run for something else. Details coming up. Okay, folks, we're going to grab a phone call here, because if I don't do this and I get started on this Warren stuff, that's another half hour before I get to the phones. And I just can't do that. I mean, I give out the number, I invite people to call, and then to not take the calls and not go there, that's rude, that's impolite, and I'm not that. So we're going to start here. We'll do the Pocahontas stuff in the next half hour. I'll get started. I'll get it all in here. But Steve in Omaha, you're up first today, sir. Thank you for waiting, and hello.
Absolutely, Rush. Wonderful to talk to you today.
Thank you, sir.
Two things that I was thinking about here, listening to all the hate and all the things that are going on that they're coming up with. Number one is, as far as all the hatred and all the things that they're spouting, when you're trying to drain a swamp, the people that are going to scream the most and yell the most are going to be the rats that enjoy living there. And I don't see that as any kind of surprise at all.
Exactly. I mean, and then they're not going to stop screaming.
Oh no! Matter of fact, really the second point I think is that all this is going on because how do I say it? This has been going on for an awful long time. The fact that they're doing this, they're not going to pick and choose, their battles. They've dug their heels in. They're going to disrupt as much as they can for as long as they can.
Okay.
The strategy that some people ascribe to I think McConnell or whoever in the Senate of having Sessions' vote be last so that he could still vote on all the others was brilliant. But don't let down the guard. This is something that is not going to stop. They're going to keep it up, and if they relax, then you just can't coast. You can't say, okay, now we're past that.
Well, that's, of course, a lesson learned over countless years' experience, guided by intelligence. And we all hope the Republicans see it the way we do, and we all hope that they maintain a stiff spine and so forth. The experience is that they haven't, so that's what everybody's guarded about. But you're right; they're not going to go away. The real thing here, though, is it is hate that is fueling them. Now, hate, folks, it's like I said yesterday, when you talk about making everybody a victim, which is what the Democrat Party has done. Every voting member, other than the elites in Hollywood and academia, but the rank and file Democrat voter is also filled with hate, whether he's on the protest march or not. And it's because he has accepted the victimhood status assigned to him by the Democrat Party. And when you accept that you're a victim, that's a very personal decision. I mean, somebody can call you a victim, but you don't have to accept it. You don't have to act that way. But when you choose to, when you've made up your mind that you are a victim, you have given up all hope for happiness. You can never be happy. You can never even be content. Those two things don't go together with victimhood. Then you add the hate to the victimhood status that these people have willingly adopted. When you're a victim, nothing's ever your fault. It's always somebody else's fault. In this case, the Republicans. And so you have been told to hate them and blame them, which is a loyal Democrat you've done. So you have roiling, churning, emotions that a bottle of Tums every day is not going to even touch. You are just boiling over with victimology and or victimhood and hate, precluding happiness, precluding enjoyment, precluding and eliminating any chance for contentment. And you have to keep that up because you are forever going to fail as a victim. As a victim, you have accepted that there's nothing you can do about what is happening to you. It is always somebody else's fault, and no matter what you do, you are consigned to whatever miserable life that you have. And so you talk about 30, 40% of the country that is this way. Why would it subside? The ingredients for never-ending miserableness, unhappiness, and hate are fed to you every day by the people you respect and admire. Elected Democrats and the media and pop culture and so forth. So, yeah, they're not going anywhere. Sticking with the phones, and like the next caller is reacting to something I said an hour and a half ago. And that's even unfair. But it's just the way things worked out. If you didn't hear what the call, let me briefly set this up. Donald Trump tweeted out today his anger at Nordstrom for canceling his daughter's fashion line in their department stores. And on CNN and the drive-bys elsewhere, they just cream Trump for doing this. This is not presidential. Presidents don't do this. Fathers do this, yeah, but presidents don't do this. Presidents don't go out and pick winners and losers and attack American businesses over business decisions. And, of course, I then sought to put this in proper perspective and explain why it would not hurt Trump, because this is exactly the kind of thing Trump voters want and expect and cheer, because it wasn't a business decision. It was a political decision, and people are fed up. Businesses have been politicized by the left and the Democrats, and it's gotten way out of hand, and people are fed up with it. And so Trump defending his daughter and against a political attack, perfectly fine. Most people think. Now, the establishment and the media, who still don't understand the people that voted for Donald Trump, I don't think they're capable of understanding it. I think they could go out and talk to them. I think go out and meet them. They could go to Wisconsin. They could go to Ohio. They could go to all those blue states that voted for Trump, and they could spend a week talking to people. They'd come back still thinking those people are dumb, stupid idiots that don't see the world in the right way. They wouldn't learn a thing talking to them because of their arrogance and their condescension. But those people, it's not just Donald Trump defending his daughter, which is fine and dandy as far as they're concerned. It's also perfectly qualified, perfectly permitted, because it's political. Just like these judges are acting political and not judicial. So here we have a guy who wants to respond to all this that I said, and it's Junior in Polk County, Illinois. Hi, Junior. Great to have you with us, sir.
Hello.
Hey, Junior. What's up? What's happening?
Oh, okay. It's a privilege and honor to talk to you, Rush.
Thank you, sir.
I've been listening to you for a long time. Anyway, about the Donald Trump, just because he's president doesn't mean that he's quit being her father. And I remember a Democrat president by the name of Harry S. Truman, who not only defended his daughter for a review that was made about her singing, but he threatened bodily harm to the reporter. And so I just thought I'd mention that.
Yeah, in fact, you are exactly right about that. How many of you do not know this? Harry Truman, Democrat. I mean, you want to talk about divisive. Dwight Eisenhower was elected president, replaced Truman, and on the inauguration day, where the new president comes and has coffee, tea, or bourbon, whatever, at 10 o'clock in the morning, Eisenhower and Mamie showed up, but he never got out of the car. Didn't go in to greet the Trumans. They rode over to the inauguration in dead silence. It was very, very frigid and chilly in the car. Harry Truman threatened a local Washington music critic who had given a bad review to a performance by his daughter, Margaret. He threatened to beat this reviewer up. Harry Truman is a hero of liberals, many of whom at the time believed in courage and principle. They don't any longer. They attack it. But they love Truman. And Truman, he was president. He went out and he threatened to beat up this reviewer. And would Harry... I don't know if Harry Truman would have liked Putin or not. Probably not. I don't know. You know, this whole thing reminds me of us. Thank you very much, Junior, for the call. I appreciate it very much. You want to hear the letter that Harry Truman wrote to the music critic in the Washington Post? Here's the letter. The Washington Post music critic, Paul Hume, gave Margaret Truman a very negative review of a concert performance that she gave one night in Washington. Truman sent him a letter the next day. Mr. Hume, I've just read your lousy review of Margaret's concert. I've come to the conclusion that you are an 8-ulcer man on a 4-ulcer pay. It seems to me that you are a frustrated old man who wishes he could have been successful. When you write such poppycock as was in the back section of the paper you work for, it shows conclusively that you're off the beam, and at least 4 of your ulcers are at work. Someday, I hope to meet you. When that happens, you'll need a new nose, a lot of beefsteak for black eyes, and perhaps a supporter below. I hope you'll accept that statement as a worse insult than a reflection on your ancestry. Sincerely, President Harry Truman. Trump just sent out a tweet. This was a full-fledged personal assault of a reviewer, a personal threat to a reviewer. And Trump just tweeted that he thought it was very, very bad, blasting Nordstrom for canceling Ivanka's clothing line. Try this, folks. You think that they're not a hate group, and you think the Democrat Party isn't unhinged. Planned Parenthood President Cecile Richards, who is the daughter of Ma Richards, who is the former crime boss of Texas, urged women yesterday to push the pro-abortion movement to the next level by publicly bragging about their own abortions, saying the next step is to get rid of the stigma and shame surrounding abortion. You mean they haven't done that yet? Abortion became legal in 1973. I thought they'd gotten rid of the stigma and the shame surrounding abortion by converting pregnancy into an illness, which they've done. Pregnancy is an illness. It victimizes, there's that word again, women. That's right, pregnancy is victimhood. I think it's time for us to be bold, said Ma Richards' daughter at a women's conference in California. And so I want to ask you to do something or think about doing something, and that is to share your own story. This is the time to do it. We want women bragging about their abortions. For what purpose? What would possibly be, are they, wait a minute. Well, I can answer my own question. They're trying to encourage more abortions. But every time I've accused them of that over the years, they've fought back. No, you mischaracterize us, Mr. Limbaugh. We're not trying to promote abortion. The hell you're not. If an adoption clinic opens next to a Planned Parenthood clinic and a woman walks into the adoption clinic, the first thing Planned Parenthood does is try to go get her and talk her out of the adoption. It's about money in many things. They want people to brag. They want women to brag about their abortion. That dinner, not dinner parties, but, well, yes, of course, dinner parties, but in public ways. They want to encourage abortion as just your next everyday average medical procedure that improves your life and elongates your life and gets rid of illness at the same time. This is sick. These people are genuinely sick. Their brains are rotting with all the hatred that they live with and have for decades. It literally is rotting their brains. And if they think this is the way you grow a political party, They continue to illustrate they do not know America. Here is Pocahontas. By the way, you may wonder why the name Pocahontas. Elizabeth Warren is as white as the fence behind your house. She wanted to get into Harvard. She wanted to become a teacher. And Harvard, being politically correct and an institution that bows to the religion of affirmative action, said, no, we're only accepting people of color. And so she went out and had some so-called official blood test done and found that she was 0.1% Indian blood. That somewhere back in her family's lineage there had been an Indian, a Native American. And Harvard said, oh, well, fine. And she said that her high cheekbones were the genealogical evidence, the physiological evidence that she has Indian blood is her high cheekbones. And the left said, this is great. This is absolutely wonderful. That's a brilliant move, Pocahontas. So we call her Pocahontas because she's a fake Indian. There's no question that it's all just manufactured. So she's now a senator, and you should also know that her approval numbers in Massachusetts are down. She is only at 44%. And she's on the national scene, the far left hate party loves her, but she's got problems in Massachusetts. So she's pulling stunts to try to get noticed. And she went to the floor of the Senate last night to read a letter from Coretta Scott King about Jeff Sessions, trying to disqualify him, smear him, slander him, just despicable stuff. And Mitch McConnell invoked Senate Rule 19, which says that senators cannot do that. You cannot personally assault, personally attack. You cannot slander fellow members of this body. It's a seldom invoked rule, but it was invoked last night. She's got a history of Rule 19 type behavior. So McConnell slaps the rule on her, which silences her. And the left is all thinking, this is really great because now they've turned her into the focal point and she's got a 24-hour story. This happened so late at night. If McConnell would have just let her rant, then nobody would have ever known about it and there wouldn't be any news about it. But McConnell slapped her down and so now she's big news. And I don't think that the invocation of Rule 19 was just to shut her up last night. I think this does have something to do with potential use of the filibuster, which McConnell doesn't want to do. Rule 19 also has other things in it, not just you can't slime a fellow senator. There's also a rule, part of Rule 19, which says a senator can only speak twice on the same subject during the course of debate on that subject. And this could be a way of getting Sessions confirmed without having to go nuclear and do away with the filibuster. I'll explain all that in the next half hour, but I want to play for you the soundbite of some of Elizabeth Warren last night. And, well, you know what? Because it takes 4 bites to get to where she gets shut down here. Well, go ahead and play number 9. We have time to squeeze this, at least get started on
I rise today to express my strong opposition to the nomination of Senator Jeff Sessions to serve as Attorney General of the United States. And I ask, where are the senators who will say no to the nomination of Senator Jeff Sessions as Attorney General of the United States? I hope there are at least enough senators here who understand that America is careening over a constitutional cliff and that all of us, regardless of political party, need an Attorney General who can be relied on to enforce the laws fairly and to fight back against lawless overreach by an out-of-control president.
President's not out of control. It's your side, Pocahontas, that's out of control. Felonious, riotous behavior. Anyway, that's how it got started. There's much more, and we have it coming up. Any of you leftist women want to call here, brag about your abortions, and maybe tell us how many instances of breast cancer you've had? Feel free, have at it. Just let us hear from you. You know, the incidence of breast cancer in abortion is higher. You know that, right? Going to brag about it? Call us. Welcome back, my good friends. It's a delight. It's a thrill to have you here. Rush Limbaugh and the Excellence in Broadcasting Network. Coming at you right here from the Limbaugh Institute for Advanced Conservative Studies. Telephone number 800-282-2882. The email address lrushmo@eibnet.com. Know what I'm trying to say here? People asking me about this executive order in the courts. What we have here is a clear violation of the separation of powers. There is a statute passed by Congress, the elected representatives of the peoples, that vests total authority and power in the President of the United States to determine who and who does not get into the country. By proclamation of the President, and for however long he deems necessary, to secure the borders and the safety of the United States, national security. And we have a judge in the state of Washington who told the president, well, I don't like that you're doing it, so I'm going to say that you have to stop. The judge does not have the constitutional authority. This statute it is clearly constitutional. It's not been challenged. And because this judge stayed the executive order, now we have a 3-judge panel at the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals is hearing the appeal by the federal government on the judge in Washington. If this stands, this is the judiciary taking power from the executive, which it is not entitled to have. Where does this stop? What other executive branch powers can a rogue judge who is a leftist hack just forestall by virtue of having another leftist hack ask for a stay of execution on whatever presidential act is being disagreed with? And if a bunch of liberal judges can literally co-opt a president and steal executive power with no redress, that cannot stand. And that's all that's going on here. This is nothing more than a bunch of political hacks who are wearing robes and are called judges, literally telling a president he can't do what he has the clear legal authority to do because they disagree with it. And the frightening thing is that this could go all the way to the Supreme Court. There are enough liberal hacks on the Supreme Court who could rule that the president doesn't have this authority because we don't agree with him. Not because it's illegal, not because it's unconstitutional, but we don't like it. We don't like what he's doing, so we're going to stop him. Well, where does that end? Now, the real question is, what's the redress for this? And we will discuss that in due course, should that become necessary. But I can't tell you how the Ninth Circuit's... Well, the odds are the Ninth Circuit's going to uphold the judge in Seattle. You've got 2 liberal hacks on this 3-judge panel that are of the same stripe as Judge Robart, who is a liberal hack in Seattle. You wonder why they chose Seattle for this? A district court judge telling a president of the United States he can't do what the judge disagrees with? This is, to me, it's serious stuff. I've been asking every legal authority I know, how can you be so patient with this? This is a clear constitution. This is to me, it's almost a constitutional crisis. I may be the only one who sees it that way, because I think the academics get involved in all this. You know, it's just a fascinating intellectual exercise. To me, it's the real world. To me, it's the left taking over a branch of government and trying to stop what they lost during a campaign. And I think back to Hillary Clinton and the Democrats talking about what a threat to our democracy Donald Trump would be if he failed to accept the results of the election, if he lost. And where are people asking that about Judge Robart? Where are people asking that about the Ninth Circuit, depending on how they rule? Where are people asking that about the Democrat Party? Hillary Clinton is a threat to our democracy. Donald Trump poses a threat to our democracy if he refuses to accept the results of the election. This is when Hillary thought she was going to win in a landslide. Well, now who's refusing to accept the results of the election? The entire Democrat hate group. Anyway, we got to get back. I know. Elizabeth Warren, we're going to keep going here. Here's soundbite number 2. It's 3 more sound bites before we get to her being shut down with the invocation of Rule 19.
Mr. Sessions is a throwback to a shameful era, which I know both black and white Americans thought was in our past. It is inconceivable to me that a person of this attitude is qualified to be a U.S. attorney, let alone a U.S. federal judge. He is, I believe, a disgrace to the Justice Department, and he should withdraw his nomination and resign his position.
Lindsey Graham, the senator from South Carolina, is pro Sessions, and he has tweeted out the photograph of an award that Sessions got. In 2009, Jeff Sessions was awarded the, The NAACP gave Sessions their governmental award for excellence. He was a senator in 2009. The NAACP, National Association of Advancement of Liberal Colored People, gave Sessions their award for governmental excellence. Now they oppose him, as Pocahontas opposes him. So Pocahontas just getting warmed up here. Here's another bite.
A person who has exhibited so much hostility to the enforcement of those laws.
The senator is reminded that it is a violation of Rule 19 of the standing rules of the Senate to impute to another senator or senators any conduct or motive unworthy or becoming a senator.
Mr. President, I don't think I quite understand. I'm reading a letter from Coretta Scott King to the Judiciary Committee from 1986 that was admitted into the record. I'm simply reading what she wrote about what the nomination of Jeff Sessions to be a federal court judge meant and what it would mean in history for her.
This is a reminder, not necessarily what you just shared. However, you stated that a sitting senator is a disgrace to the Department of Justice.
And so she just got warmed up. This is the kind of stuff she loves. These Democrat hate groups, they love this kind of challenge. And so Pocahontas was just getting good. By the way, the voice you heard there, that was Steve Daines. He's a senator from Montana, and he drew, poor guy, he drew the short straw last night in having to act as president of the Senate. He had to act as a traffic cop for all this. Another Democrat all-nighter. They tried to destroy DeVos. Now they're trying to destroy Sessions. They're not going to succeed at this. This is an exercise here simply to feed the hate to their base. Their victimized base, which has a steady diet of undiluted hate, the Democrats have to keep serving it if they have any chance of getting elected. So Mitch McConnell, as she kept going, McConnell stepped in. The Republican leader of the Senate had enough.
Mr. President.
The majority leader.
Senators impugn the motives and conduct of our colleague from Alabama as warned by the chair. Senator Warren, quote, said Senator Sessions has used the awesome power of his office to chill the free exercise of the vote by black citizens. I call the senator to order under the provisions of Rule 19.
Mr. President.
Senator from Massachusetts.
Mr. President, I am surprised that the words of Coretta Scott King are not suitable for debate in the United States Senate. I ask leave of the Senate to continue my remarks.
Is there objection?
Object.
Objection is heard. The senator will take her seat.
I appeal the ruling of the chair.
And she just kept going, and she got hysterical and so forth. The reading of the letter from Coretta Scott King, 1986, about Sessions' appointment to be a federal district court judge back in 1986, is not even applicable today. It's all related to the whole thing here is rooted in the left trying to take a joke that Sessions told and turn it into a serious policy statement. The left wants you to believe that Jeff Sessions was all cool with the KKK. He was fine with the KKK. They were a great bunch until he found out they smoked marijuana. And when he found out they smoked marijuana, that's when Jeff Sessions decided he had to distance himself from the KKK. He was telling a joke. I'm giving it to you out of context. That one episode is what the Democrats have tried to build a case on, that Sessions is pro-KKK, anti-black, anti-minority, racist, and all. It's just bogus. It's BS. Many of the senators that voted against Sessions in '86 have stated they wish they could do it again. They feel bad they voted against him. Everybody in the Senate knows the guy. It's all made up. This is why McConnell stood up. It's made up. It's a bunch of lies. None of it is true. It's impugning a senator. It is violation of Rule 19. However, there is an interesting piece about this by a writer named Sean Davis over at the Federalist. And this is, in his opinion, this is related to the upcoming battle over Judge Gorsuch. And it's rooted in the fact that McConnell and the Republicans would really love to get Gorsuch confirmed without having to invoke the filibuster, to nuke it, which means they would like to be able to get 60 votes for Gorsuch. But Rule 19, you see, Rule 19 provides a route around the necessity for 60 votes without blowing up the filibuster. And here is the part of Rule 19 that is relevant to this aspect of it. When a senator desires to speak, the senator shall rise and address the presiding officer and shall not proceed until he's recognized. And the presiding officer shall recognize the senator who shall first address him. No senator shall interrupt another senator in debate without his consent. And to obtain such consent, he shall first address the presiding officer, and no senator, this is the key to it, no senator shall speak more than twice about any one question in debate on the same legislative day without leave of the Senate, which shall be determined without debate. You heard her ask for leave of the Senate. That means basically a suspension of rules, which was denied. So the key element of Rule 19, which shut her up, might actually be a test for the use of Rule 19 in another area, and it is the area which prevents a senator from speaking more than twice about any one subject. So the upshot is that no senator can speak more than twice on any legislative day on the same subject. So if you're talking about the debate on Gorsuch on the floor, on whether he should be confirmed as a Supreme Court justice. So what McConnell could do here, he could say, because he's the leader of the Senate, he could simply deem that the floor debate on Gorsuch will occur in one legislative day. And he can do that if the Senate is not gavelled into recess, which means that the debate would actually become a real filibuster. It means that every senator rising has to speak about the subject and can only speak about it twice. And the Senate can't go into recess. So you have a legitimate filibuster. It's just a filibuster where every senator can speak, not just one. And since a senator can only speak twice about a single subject, the theory is that you could have the Senate legislative day comprise 48 hours and give every opponent to Sessions 2 different chances to say whatever they want to say about him. After everybody has had their opportunity to speak twice on the floor of the Senate, whether it's at noon or midnight or whenever, they're done. When every senator has had his chance to speak twice, it's over. The legislative day is over. Once that's all done, there's nobody remaining who can legally take the floor in order to continue the debate, because every senator will have spoken twice about the nomination of Gorsuch. So at that point, McConnell would say that the debate is over by rule and call for the final confirmation vote. There would not be a 60-vote cloture vote necessary. Wouldn't be a vote for 60 votes. Wouldn't be a necessity for it. Because once that rule, Rule 19, two-speech rule, has been applied to everybody who wishes to speak, the debate is over. And then McConnell would schedule the final floor vote, and Gorsuch would sail in. And it's a little bit more involved than that, because it's all involved in shutting down the debate. The debate can't go on because Rule 19 prevents any senator from saying anything more than twice on the same subject. So he invokes Rule 19, calls it a legislative day, and the day goes on until every senator's had a chance to speak twice. Well, the Republicans won't speak twice, but the Democrats will. So every Democrat speaking twice, whatever, they figure it take 48 hours, a legislative day, 48 hours. And after that, there can't be any more debate on the subject, because Rule 19's invocation prohibits any senator from speaking more than twice on a subject, and you have to have a vote after this. So it's a way around. It's obvious they do not want to have to use the filibuster to get Gorsuch confirmed. And some people looking at this think that the invocation of Rule 19 will be a way of getting that done, because you eliminate the need for 60 votes. Because the debate ends. It's 60 votes that ends the debate. Normally, you got to have 60 votes for cloture. But if you invoke Rule 19 and senators can only speak twice, then that's it. Debate's over. You don't need 60 votes to stop the debate. Rule 19 has stopped the debate. Then you have the vote, and Gorsuch gets confirmed by 52, 53, what have you. Whatever it is. That is the thinking. And so while the left thinks that Elizabeth Warren scored a big knockout here by becoming the focus of Republican obstruction and so forth, what's really happened here is everybody has been prepared for Rule 19. People know what Rule 19 is now, and there's another part of it, and it looks like it's about to be used. Back after this. Hey, let's review some recent polling data. Have you noticed, by the way, folks, we have not seen any polling at all on the Democrat obstruction of Trump's cabinet nominees. Why is that? I mean, they poll everything. Why haven't we seen a poll of what people think of the Democrats' obstruction of Trump's nominees? As I noted yesterday, ladies and gentlemen, the Democrats are openly admitting that they are trying to make the country ungovernable. The Democrats and their fellow protesters. Do they think that's what voters want? I mean, before the election, they kept saying that voters want people that can make Washington work. And who is it that's keeping Washington from working? The Democrats. UK Daily Mail, 92%. Now, this is in the UK, but I'll bet you it's the same here. 92% of left-wing activists live with mommy and daddy. And 1 out of every 3 of them is unemployed, according to this is protesters in Berlin. 92% of these long-haired, maggot-infested, dope-smoking rock and rollers live with mommy and daddy. And 1/3 of them are unemployed. Harvard economist, 42% of immigrant households are on public assistance. A Harvard economist has found that some 42% of immigrant households in the United States are on public assistance of some kind. In 2016, 8.9 million households headed by a non-citizen. Senator Tom Cotton, Arkansas. It's time to cut immigration levels and shift the focus to helping American citizens first. Exactly right. The left wants you to believe this country has a duty to have open borders to let any disenfranchised poor person from anywhere in the world come in here because we're the reason they're poor. We are the reason that there is oppression in the world. We are the reason our imperialism, our military, our capitalist way of life, we are the reason people have to flee their homelands because we have stolen the world's resources for our own use. And so we owe it to anybody to be able to come into this country. That's their view. That's their view of immigration. We're guilty. We're unjust and immoral, and we have polluted the world and destroyed the world, and it's our responsibility to take care of the people we've harmed. That's how they look at this. And Tom Cotton is stepping up and saying, we need to put limits on immigration again, which we've done. We had no legal immigration from 1921 to 1965. We need to do something along those lines again and start taking care of the American citizenry first. Here's a poll from Emerson College. During the election, during the campaign, this poll was given serious weight. Are you ready? The Trump administration is more trusted than the news media. The Trump administration is considered more honest than the news media. The administration is considered truthful by 49% of registered voters, untruthful by 48%. The news media, 53% say it's untruthful, only 39% say that it is truthful. They sit up there and they talk about Trump gets his facts wrong, lies. They still don't get it. They have this derogatory, negative impression of Trump voters. They have no idea how they are seen. They really don't. Oh, I got an email during the break. Rush, you confused me on this Rule 19 versus 60 votes. Could you go through this again? Let me do it very quickly. And then I'm going to go at it the opposite direction. In the Senate, you need 60 votes for anything. And the way it happens, it's called a filibuster, but it really isn't a filibuster. It's just a Senate rule. It's been around for a long time. Don't ask why, what's the logic. It just is. The Senate is supposed to slow down things. Passing laws was supposed to be hard to do. The Founding Fathers didn't want a growing government. They didn't want a lot of laws. The Senate was designed to bottle everything up. 60 votes, not a simple majority. In 2013, Harry Reid came along and said, it's not fair. And he wanted to pack the courts with Obama-appointed judges, so he implemented what's called the nuclear option and got rid of the rule requiring 60 votes for legislation and for district court judges, not Supreme Court judges, but district court, appellate judges, everything else. It was called the nuclear option because it blew up decades of Senate tradition. 60 votes are still needed not to pass legislation, but to end debate on any item. And that's the key to understanding Rule 19's application. You need 60 votes in the Senate to stop debate on anything. And then after you get, that's called cloture, and then you vote on the actual legislation. You can get cloture with 60 votes and have the thing pass by only 55-45, but you have to have 60 to stop debate and go to the actual vote. The way Rule 19 works, it eliminates the 60 votes to stop debate and replaces it with a rule that says senators can only speak twice about a single subject during a legislative day. Whoever runs the Senate can define what a legislative day is. So McConnell will define the legislative day as the Senate not going into recess, and the subject would be Gorsuch's confirmation. He'll invoke Rule 19 and the part of it that says senators can only speak twice about it. When every senator who wants to has spoken twice about Gorsuch, that is the same as getting 60 votes to stop debate. Rule 19 says that debate is over if a single Senate legislative day has taken place with no interruptions, and McConnell can be in charge of that. Once every senator has spoken twice about Gorsuch. It's over. Debate is over, and you move to the vote. You don't need 60 votes in this case because Rule 19 replaces the need for 60 votes with a limit on senators' debate to 2 speaking terms. They can go as long as they want. This could take 48 to 50 hours to do. But after every Democrat senator has spoken twice, it's over and you go to the vote. And so the reason this is being discussed as relevant is because Rule 19 is invoked really quickly last night, and it's very seldom invoked. And so Senate watchers are thinking, hey, McConnell and the boys, they're looking at Rule 19 here. And the reason they're looking at it is because they so quickly invoked it against Pocahontas. So that's... By the way, this is just a theory. These are people speculating that this is what McConnell might do. Nobody said this is going to happen. What is known is that McConnell, who's a great traditionalist, does not want to have to use the nuclear option on Supreme Court nominees. He cares more about the traditions of the Senate than Harry Reid did. But I think if push came to shove, he would. But they're trying every which way they can to get Gorsuch confirmed without going nuclear, so to speak. So I hope that Mr. Sturtley, was that a little bit more... Okay, good. And again, nobody knows when that's going to happen, but it's a possibility. I know what you're saying. Well, wait a minute. What if Elizabeth Warren wants to talk for a week? Well, she can't. I mean, she cannot leave the floor. Senator cannot leave the floor. It becomes a filibuster in the sense that senators can only speak twice. But they can't pass it off to somebody else and then come back. It would take a while. Not every Republican would speak twice. The debate's going to be irrelevant. Anyway, Gorsuch is going to get the votes. All of this is just, how do you get there? How do you get to the vote? Do you invoke Rule 19? If I'll tell you the way they really want it to happen is to get enough Democrats to vote for the guy to get to 60 without having to play any games. And they might, because more and more Democrats are coming out for Gorsuch now and signaling that there's no reason to oppose the guy. So it's all going to work out. It's just how you get there. President Trump just met with the CEO of Intel. Intel announced that they're going to invest $7 billion in a factory in Arizona, and they're going to employ 3,000 people. We're getting news like this every day. We're getting good economic news like this every day. And I was watching CNN during the break, and they're just wringing their hands over what Trump was saying about the judges on the Ninth Circuit. And they got some guy, Trump said it was disgraceful the way these judges, it wasn't disgraceful, it was full of grace. These justices were arguing the cases before them, this was democracy on the parade, and the president thinking he's not subject to judicial review, this is horrible, this is a very damaging thing to our wonderful and graceful democracy, and blah, blah, blah. This is not judicial review going on, this is political hackery going on. Straight up political hackery is going on, not judicial review. The judge in Washington was wrong in staying executive order. The law doesn't matter to these people. Obviously, they just so politicized everything that, if I weren't careful, folks, I'd go off on a rant here that even a Republican FCC might have problems with. Just joking about that, but I mean, these people tick me off like you cannot believe. And I'm exercising more restraint than even I knew I had. Dennis in Colorado Springs, I really appreciate your patience in holding on. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. I feel like I've won the phone lottery today, and actually getting to talk to you is such an honor.
Thank you, sir, very much. I appreciate it.
Great. I have a computer question at the end of this, but first I wanted to ask you, given that the President Trump has showed such undue deference to the courts, that when the Ninth Circus finally upholds Robard, what would prevent President Trump from reissuing executive orders, 7 of them, one at a time, banning entry from each particular country? Then, with each court challenge, he can then just simply exercise his singular authority and separation of powers and then simply bypass the courts until the constitutionality of the first executive order is decided?
It's a good question. I know that there is redress for this. That if this goes all the way to Supreme Court and the Supreme Court stays this and Trump is not permitted this executive order, I don't know the specifics, but there have to be other ways of doing this and getting it done, which he's committed to.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking getting it done in the meantime so that we're not leaving ourselves open for 90.
Oh, I mean, that's what I'm saying. He would. I just don't know if it's seven brand new executive orders or if it's one brand new one that tries. But they're going to, no matter what he does, we now know what they're going to do. They're going to find a hack judge like this guy in Seattle, and they're going to go before the hack judge, and the hack judge is not going to use the law. He's going to use politics and his dislike for Trump being president and stop it. At some point, this is going to have to get resolved, and these people are going to have to get slapped down. You have a computer question. Time's dwindling. What's a computer question?
Okay, I have an older MacBook Pro, and it's doing me fine, but I'm wondering when Apple's going to stop upgrading it like they stopped upgrading my iPhone, and I'm going to be left without, protection to the backdoor hackers and all that. Because they time.
Well, how old is your MacBook Pro? How old is your MacBook Pro?
Real old. It's a Pro 4. Really old.
What year?
Oh, gee, I don't know. I kind of inherited it from my wife. It's got to be at least 10 years old.
Well, I think you're already there because something that old, you probably cannot put the latest operating system on it. And,
right.
And they probably have stopped issuing security upgrades for machines. So you're timed upgrades now.
Would be that same thing with the notebook, the Mac Pro notebook?
You mean the Mac? You mean the 12-inch thing?
Yeah, I have an older MacBook Pro that I think is going to be timed out as well. But my iPhone, I've already given up on trying to update that.
Wait a minute. I thought you were talking about the MacBook Pro. You're talking about the iPhone?
Right. No, both. I have a MacBook Pro that's older. It's 2011.
I'm out of time. Darn it! I'm sorry. I've got to go. And well, it turns out I answered the guy's question even though I didn't think I had. You know what? I'm right even when I think I'm wrong. I get it done even when I think I haven't got it done. I answered the guy's question. Satisfactorily, too. His computer will still work. And that's it for today, my friends. But we've got stuff coming tomorrow. You just don't miss it. Don't miss it.
Welcome to